welcome. I would like to welcome you to episode 538 of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. Here at the Unpopular Podcast, not only asked to agree with me and master to hear me out. So the Vegas Aces won this year's WNBA championship. For people that's keeping score, that is their third championship in 4 years. This championship confirmed a lot for me. And let's talk about it. First and foremost, congratulations to the Vegas Aces for winning this year's WNBA championship. I can't explain to you guys, I'm going to try, but I can't explain to you guys how improbable the Vegas Aces winning this year's championship was, or at least how improbable it looked in the middle of August. In the middle of August, if you would have told me that the Vegas Aces were going to win this year's WNBA championship, I would have looked at you and said, you clearly aren't watching the WNBA if you think they are going to win it. Remember, in the middle of August, right, the Vegas Aces, I believe, suffered the second or third largest loss in WNBA history. I think they lost by like 53 points to the Minnesota Lynx. Speaking of Minnesota Lynx, they were on fire. Nafisa Collier was the clear-cut MVP at the time. Alana Smith was the front runner for Defensive Player of the Year. They had the best record in basketball. They were playing, by far, the best basketball anybody was playing at that time. Again, this is just August. In August, I believe the Vegas Aces were 14-14. A lot of people, I was one of them for my DSP listeners, I was one of them. A lot of people was calling for the Aces to trade Jewell Loyd, the same Jewell Loyd that they got this offseason. It just wasn't working. It felt like the team just wasn't a team. It was a bunch of individuals that was just playing. Becky Hammon, it looked like and it felt like she lost control of the locker room. People was calling for Becky Hammon to be fired. If you would have told me in August that the Vegas Aces would have won this year's WNBA championship, I would have called you not just a liar, but I would have said you clearly don't watch the WNBA. You just know names. The reason why it is improbable, or it was improbable, this Vegas Aces team should not have won because of how bad they looked in season. It's very difficult. One thing is, it's very difficult to turn around a season. You know, they always like to call it a light switch. You know, they always like, oh, they flipped the switch. Usually, you might see that in a game. You usually might see that in about 2 or 3 games where, oh, they flipped the switch and they're playing great defensively or they're playing great offensively. It's very hard and it's very rare to watch a team flip a switch in the middle of a season and go on a historic run, which is what we saw the Aces do. If I'm not mistaken, they won 16 straight. In fact, they finished the season 30-14. In the middle of August, they were 14-14. They went on a 16-game run and didn't look back since. People were saying that Chelsea Gray, and when I say people, no, and I'm not, just know I'm part of people. I was loud saying this. Chelsea Gray was playing probably her worst basketball we've seen her play as a professional. While Asia Wilson was good, nobody else around her was consistent. Jackie Young had her moments, but she wasn't consistent. It didn't look like this was going to be the year. It looked like, it looked like there was going to be major changes at the end of the year. It didn't look like they were even going to make the playoffs. Again, there was a lot of people, including myself, saying that you should blow it up. You can go back in my in the catalog history of this podcast. I was loud, standing on the top of the rafters saying, yo, it's time to blow it up. You don't want to waste the greatness of Asia Wilson. And that's what it looked like this team was doing in the middle of August. The reason why I have to specify that it was in the middle of August, because not only is that the middle of the season, but they completely turned it around in a span of 2 months. Again, you went from not even smelling the playoffs, it looked like, to being WNBA champs. Obviously, you heard a lot of the teams say they had to come together. They had come to Jesus moment. The day that they lost by, 53 points, that was the, okay, either you're going to be with us or you're not. I think getting Elijah Smith was huge for the team. She brought an extra pack of offense and defense that the team just was kind of lacking outside of Asia Wilson. But again, if you would have told me when this team was 14-14, when they benched Jewel Lloyd and made her come off the bench. They benched Jewel Lloyd and made her, of course they well, they benched Jewel Lloyd. If you would have told, or bench is such a harsh word because she still played. They took her out of the starting lineup and had her be pretty much the sixth woman. Which, shout out to Jewel Lloyd. Do you know that's very difficult to do? If you look at a clear example of this is Andre Iguodala. How Andre Iguodala was a star when he was in Philadelphia. He was a star when he was in Denver. But when he went to Golden State, people don't remember. When he went to Golden State, he started the first half of the season with the team until Steve Kerr was like, yo, I think you'll be better off the bench. And when you hear interviews, when you see him talk about it, he was not happy about that. It's very hard when you're a known star. It's very hard when you have a certain role that you've been doing your entire career to then change. And in basketball, I'll just be honest with you. And in basketball, even though you could be playing starter minutes, there's just a different sound to, oh, I'm the sixth woman compared to I'm in the starting lineup. It's just different. And again, I never played professionally, but as a college basketball player, I know the difference between starting and being a bench player or coming off the bench. It's a different mindset, different approach to the game. It's just different. So when you have a star like Jewel Lloyd having to make that adjustment, kudos to her. She took it in stride. And that's another thing. Jewel Lloyd. I can't tell you how. Again, people were calling for Jewel Lloyd's head in the middle of the season. It looked like she was one of the worst acquisitions of the all season. In fact, I don't know. I don't remember if it was Bleacher Report or ESPN, but they did like a ranking of best and worst acquisitions this offseason, and Jewel Lloyd was number one, the worst. It just, again, I can't emphasize this enough, man. If you would have told me that this team would be hoisting the championship back when they were 14-14, getting blown out by 53 points, I would have just said, hey, man, dream big. But let me tell you what this solidifies. Because trust and believe, this championship solidifies a lot. Now, I'm only speaking for myself in some instances. It is a confirmed dynasty. We're watching a dynasty. I always talk about what categorizes and what makes you a dynasty. You have to win at least 3 in a short amount of time. You don't have to win 3 in a row, but you have to win at least 3 in a short, maybe 3 and 4 years, 3 and 5 years. You have to be dominant in a very short amount of time. And that is exactly what the Aces is, or was. This is their third championship in 4 years. Mind you, they were a game away last year for making the finals. So, in all actuality, this could have been their fourth straight championship. But this is their third championship in 4 years. So, there's no more, oh, is this a dynasty? Oh, what will make this a dynasty? No, we're here. I don't care if they don't win it next year. They have already cemented themselves. They've already put themselves in that. Remember, you guys remember that ESPN commercial? Like, this is ESPN in those funny commercials. And the one that always sticks to me, I think it was DeAndre Jordan. I think it was after DeAndre Jordan dunked on Brandon Knight, and he was number 1 on SportsCenter. And there was like a room. It was like a party room, and it had a bouncer and had everything. And when he walked in, you saw a bunch of people that were also number 1 top plays. And one kid was like, "Welcome to the club." That's where the Vegas Aces are now. You look over, you see the Golden State Warriors. You look over, you see the New England Patriots. You look over, you see the Detroit Red Wings. Vegas Aces have cemented themselves at that dynasty. They are the dynasty. And it's on top of being a dynasty, because again, this solidifies it. There's no more questions about it. I think the biggest conversation, not just around this team, but the biggest conversation about the Vegas Aces this year has centered around A'ja Wilson. And I talked about this when she won the co-defensive player of the year, and I talked about it when she won the MVP, being the only player in WNBA history to win the MVP 4 times. I said, if she wins it this year, it's going to be very hard, because I'm one of those people that was standing on the table and saying, hey, my GOAT, my greatest of all time is Maya Moore. What she did in such a short amount of time, it was hard, because I always look at that, and in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, well, what would have happened if she didn't end her career early? I always say, it's noble what she did, but she left a lot of meat on that bone. But she, again, for the championships, the MVPs, Maya Moore solidified herself. And there started to become a point where I realized my argument for Maya Moore was more of, well, if she didn't do something, like if she didn't stop playing, she would have continued. A'ja Wilson is still going. A'ja Wilson is one of the most decorated players we've ever seen, not just on the women's side, but in basketball history. She's one of the most decorated players when we talk about defensive player of the years, when we talk about MVPs, now when we talk about championships. Did you guys know that she's the only player, the first player in WNBA history to win MVP, Finals MVP, and Defensive Player of the Year in the same season? Did you know that she broke the record for the most points in a playoff run? Every single time you hear A'ja Wilson's name, she's breaking another record. So then I thought to myself, well, is this a LeBron, Michael Jordan thing? Because one thing that I realized, if he can say he's not doing it, but one thing that I believe LeBron James is doing is he's trying to collect as many records as he can, so that when you have that argument in saying that who's the greatest of all time, it's hard to say, well, look at what Michael Jordan did. No, look at what LeBron James did. I'm not saying that's his only motivation, but I believe that is a huge motivation, especially with him playing as long as he's been playing. He has the scoring record. He has all that. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm not saying that LeBron James isn't the GOAT. There's some people he's the GOAT. Some people think that, You know, Michael Jordan is whatever you feel is how you feel. And I was thinking, is that A'ja Wilson as well? Is A'ja Wilson on that level in the sense of, does she really only have the accolades? But then I thought to myself also, she's still going. A'ja Wilson's only 29 years old. To put that into perspective, she's younger than me. I think that this season, this playoff run, not only solidifies that the Vegas Aces is a dynasty. They are the new team in the dynastic, or they are the new dynasty. But I think that I've changed my mind. I think that I've come over to the world of A'ja Wilson is the greatest player we've ever seen. Because if you stop playing today, if she stopped playing today, shout out to Cynthia Cooper, shout out to Teresa Witherspoon, shout out to Maya Moore, shout out to Lisa Leslie, shout out to Candace Parker, shout out to all, a bunch of greats. A lot of them has not done what A'ja Wilson has done, especially when you total up what she has. A lot of them, I mean, obviously Cynthia Cooper was, but a lot of them wasn't on a dynasty. Again, this team was 14-14. People were calling for Becky Hammond's job. People were saying that Jewel Lloyd needed to be traded. And we're now saying congratulations to the Vegas Aces for winning this year's championship. And the last thing that I want to say, because I don't want to not give credit to the Phoenix Mercury, but I do want to bring light to something. And this is how you know we're talking about a different type of team. Did you know that the Phoenix Mercury was one of the best defensive teams all regular season? Now, I know people are going to say, well, what about they don't call fouls? I get it, cool. But if you look at the ranking, they were one of the best defensive teams in the WNBA. Did you also know that they were one of the best offensive teams in the WNBA all season with Kalea Copper and Alyssa Thomas, and they got DeWanna Bonner halfway through the season. Satu Sabali, I know she got hurt, but I hope for a speedy recovery, but she had an incredible season as well. The reason why I wanted to bring that up is because, did you watch the WNBA finals? First and foremost, this was the first year that the finals went to, it was a 7-game series. And outside of one game, which was the game where A'ja Wilson hit the game winner, I believe that was game 3. Outside of one game, it wasn't that competitive. We're talking about its levels. And it was clear early on in this series that the Vegas Aces are just on another level than the Phoenix Mercury. Now, again, shout out to the Phoenix Mercury. I'm not, congratulating them for making it to the finals. I'm not saying you're trash or anything, because obviously you made it. You were one of the top 2 teams. But this is the Vegas Aces moment. They have officially they have officially entered into the Dynasty class. They are sitting pretty as the newest sports dynasty. And as of right now, I am on the side of A'ja Wilson is the greatest player we've ever seen. Congratulations to the Vegas Aces for winning this year's WNBA championship. Let's move forward. Change is hard. That's what a lot of people say. Change is difficult. Sometimes you need change, but doesn't mean you're automatically prepared for it. Sometimes you think you're prepared for change, but you're really not. Sometimes change is sprung on you unpredictably, but you have to roll with the punches. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to the Philadelphia Eagles this year, but they haven't been great. Their record might say they've been okay. Right now they're 4-2, but they haven't been great. They haven't looked like the team that just came off of winning a Super Bowl. To be completely honest, they look like a above average team with a great roster. And when I say with a great roster, at this point, I'm talking about by name. Because when you see the roster that the Philadelphia Eagles have, they haven't been playing up to that championship level. The great roster that those names hold, they haven't been playing up to it. And why did I start this off by talking about change? I didn't think that losing someone like Kellen Moore, who we see what he looks like as a head coach for the Saints, I'll let you be the determining factor of if he's good or not. But I didn't think losing Kellen Moore was going to have such a drastic effect on this team. But through 6 weeks, it looks like it has. I knew that going into this season, teams, especially when you see what Saquon Barkley did a year ago, I knew that teams were going to make it a point to stop the run. I knew that teams were going to make it a point to say, hey, you can beat us, but Saquon Barkley is not going to go crazy. I just didn't think that the offense would look so disjointed if teams were successful in, I'm not saying stop, but slow down Saquon Barkley. Going into Thursday Night Football, I had absolutely no faith in the New York Giants. Remember, they just came off of a loss against arguably the worst team in football in the New Orleans Saints. And while no, I don't think the Philadelphia Eagles were playing great because they just came off a loss. I thought that they would be on a different level. And how wrong I was, because the New York Giants beat the Philadelphia Eagles 34-17 on Thursday Night Football. Now, the saying is, any given Sunday, any given Monday, any given Thursday. I don't believe that applies here. Because the same way that the Cleveland Browns beat the Philadelphia Eagles, the same way that teams have been close to beating the Philadelphia Eagles, is exactly how the Giants did it. And that was play smash mouth defense, smash mouth running game. Cam Scatterboo had the game of his life. And just don't make mistakes. Which brings me to the culprit, in my opinion, of why the Philadelphia Eagles lost. At least let's say just on Thursday night. A lot of people are going to point the finger at Jalen Hurts. Had a late game interception, which wasn't great. Only had a QBR of 31.1. Was sacked 3 times for 17 yards. Jalen Hurts wasn't great. 283 yards, which sounds cool, but he wasn't great. His number one target was Dallas Goedert, who had 110 yards and 1 touchdown. The culprit to this loss was on the defense. Now, I know that's easy to say. It's like, well, Jalen, they scored 34 points. Of course it was the defense. No. I don't think you understand. This defense last year was on a historic pace. In fact, historically, it was one of the best defenses we've ever seen. In fact, outside of Saquon Barkley just going crazy, I will say one of the biggest reasons why they won the Super Bowl last year was because of that stout defense. Now, I know. Because I even said it in the season breakdown. I said it this offseason. I said it in the beginning of the year. I said, the Eagles lost a lot defensively. But they also retained a lot, including their best defensive player in Jalen Carter. Now, yes, I know Jalen Carter wasn't out there, but you still have Zach Vaughn. You still have Jordan Davis. You still have Quentin Mitchell. Like, you still have great players. But their defense has not looked great majority of this season. Their special teams have looked great, but their defense hasn't. Don't get me wrong, man. Cam Scatterboo had the night of his life. Jackson Dart didn't really have the night of his life, but he played well. 195 yards, 1 touchdown. He also rushed for 158 yards. And like I said, Cam Scatterboo had 93 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. But it felt like the same way that the Philadelphia Eagles beat a lot of teams last year is how they lost on Thursday Night Football to the Giants. They were just more physical. They controlled the trenches in both the offense and the defense. Now, and again, this is an Eagles team that had the best offensive line last year, that had the best running back last year, that had the best defense, that arguably had the best wide receiver duo in A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. They haven't been playing up to snuff. Now, I know I said that the defense was not, or was the main reason why they lost, but I have to talk about Jalen Hurts for a second. Can I be honest with you guys? I think Jalen Hurts at his best is a top 10 quarterback. Especially when you win finals or Super Bowl MVP. You're one of them. He's definitely a top 10 quarterback. When Jalen Hurts is playing at his best, it's hard. There's not many quarterbacks that you will put over him. Jalen Hurts' best attribute at times is he doesn't lose you the game. Like, he is a very highly serviceable quarterback. At his best, he does not lose you the game. He does exactly what he's supposed to do to win, especially with the pieces that he has. But what has been the issue? And honestly, the issue that Jalen Hurts has goes back to college, goes back to when he was at Alabama, goes back to when he was at Oklahoma. When you make Jalen Hurts a primary passer, when you make a Jalen Hurts run offense a primarily passing offense, it's not great. Even with A.J. Brown, even with Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts is not that guy. When you need him to throw the ball 40, 50 times, he's not going to give you a high volume. He can throw the ball deep downfield, but he's not going to do it consistently. That was the knock on him in college. That's one of the reasons why I was skeptical when he came out of college and went to the pros. Like, I don't know if Jalen Hurts is going to work in the league. Clearly, I was wrong. I'm not saying that Jalen Hurts sucks. But what I'm saying is this. You have to know, and I think the Eagles know this, but and I don't know if it's because of social media. I don't know if there's pressure above. I don't know. Because as much as I hate the Eagles because I'm a Washington Commanders fan and they're in the same division, one thing that I will admit is the Eagles have been known to have a really good organization. So I don't know if it's social media getting to them, but it feels like ever since, especially this year, when people have focused in on how lackluster the passing game is for the Eagles, even though their calling card is running the ball, how lackluster the offense is when we talk about passing. It's felt like these last, 2-3 weeks, he has been mainly a passer, and it's no coincidence that they're on, a 2-game losing streak now. Jalen Hurts is not, and this is, and I'm not defending him, but this is what Cam Newton was talking about. When you say that Jalen Hurts doesn't have to do much. Because think about this. And no offense, I'm not bashing Jalen Hurts, I'm just saying. But imagine if Josh Allen was the quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. Imagine if Lamar Jackson was the quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. Imagine if Patrick Mahomes had all this talent. It will look different. Now, again, we can look back, kind of like the Vegas Aces. We can look back, we can look in the future, and they're hoisting their second straight Super Bowl. They could. It's still a good team. But you're seeing the limitations of this team is kind of falls at the feet of the limitations of their quarterback. Do I think Jalen Hurts can have a incredible passing game? Yes. But can he do that consistently? No. Not in my opinion, no. Now, again, I know this is just one game. This is a divisional rival, so, anything can happen in a divisional game. I get it. But the Giants shut the Eagles out the second half. So, and honestly, a lot of this was the pass rush, man. And like I said, that's going to be the Giants' calling card. If the setback end of the defense can give the pass rush time to get to the quarterback, you succeeded. Because there's not a lot of teams that can defend going up against Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns and Abdul Carter and Kayvon Thibodeau. It's just tough. And then when you have Cam Scatterboo on the offense just running people over. Yo, did you see that man ran, I think Zach Braun? Like, that man knocked him off his feet and sent a grown man flying like that. It was crazy. I want to talk about something before we go. I want to talk about Brian Daboll for a second. Because I don't know if you guys noticed, but there was a point in the game where Jackson Dart got hurt, and Russell Wilson had to go in for like a play. And mind you, I think it was like the third or fourth quarter, but mind you, the offensive line that is usually done a terrible job, but the offensive line was having the game of its life before Russell Wilson went in. They were protecting Jackson Dart like their life depended on it. They were playing the best a line could play that I've seen all year from them. As soon as Russell Wilson goes in, not only do they, I guess, forget the snap count, but they damn near forget to block him, and Russell Wilson throws a pass in the middle of the field to nobody. Like when the ball, when he threw it and the camera followed the ball, for a good minute, you didn't see not a player, not an offense or defensive player in the picture. And I'm looking at a flat screen, 65-inch TV. I didn't see a Giant or an Eagle player in the vicinity. And then you hear the crowd start booing. Mind you, this was one play. You hear the crowd start booing. You hear the commentators just, oh my God, this guy stinks. And then the camera goes to Brian Daboll. And Brian Daboll is going crazy at, I believe, the athletic coordinator or the lead medical doctor or something, screaming and pleading for Jackson Dart to come back in the game. There was a point where this man, Brian Daboll, the head coach of the Giants, went to the medical tent, opened that joint, and was like, yo, when is he coming back? Like, hold on, bro. Have some decorum. Look, I'm not here. I think I'm past the point of really defending Russell Wilson. I used to be heavy on Russell Wilson defense. But, yeah, for what he's put on tape, I'm not really in the realm of defending Russell Wilson, but I will say this. Brian Daboll, bro, get off your knees. Wipe your mouth, bro. But yes, Jackson Dart's cool. I think Jackson Dart, from what we've seen, is the quarterback, at least right now, to propel your franchise further. I clearly don't think it's Russell Wilson. But, bro, you don't have to start screaming and have a hissy fit when your quarterback just got hurt and you have to deal with Russell Wilson. Like, bro, you made it, man, get off, bro. I don't know, man. I just looked at that like, come on, bro. That is, bro, Russell Wilson can see that too. If the world can see this, though, Russell Wilson can see this. And, like, your whole team can see this. Now, I'm not saying that the Russell Wilson didn't rub the team the wrong way. I don't know what the hell he did because it looks like the team don't like that man. But still, you can't, oh, my God, when is Jackson Dart coming back? Please, like, dude, have some decorum. Damn. Get off your knees, bruh. Jackson Dart is cool, but use what you got. Damn. But congratulations to the Giants for beating the Philadelphia Eagles 34 to 17. Let me give you guys my Week 6 predictions. Let's start with the Denver Broncos and New York Jets, because a lot of people are coming for me saying that I was too harsh on Aaron Glenn. They're saying, Jalen, I know the Jets are 0-5, but it's not Aaron Glenn's fault. Have you seen this team? We're not going to throw him away now. We shouldn't throw him away already. He's only been 5. Come on, bro. You're black. I thought you support black coaches. Like, hold on. You know, I realized a long time ago in this content creation space that people aren't going to necessarily listen to what you say as much as listen to what you think you said and roll with that. I think I made it very clear that I'm not solely blaming Aaron Glenn for the Jets being 0-5 right now. In fact, I think I said that word for word. I also believe I said what I am blaming Aaron Glenn for is the fact that this defense looks horrid, terrible, just trash. People saying, well, bro, he's dealing with injuries. Bro, the defense looked like that week 1 against the Steelers. When the Steelers put up, 34 points on them? I'm not giving. I don't think they should fire Aaron Glenn. I don't think he should be fired at the end of the season. I mean, he dealt with a bad. The roster isn't as great as we thought it was. But I am saying that it is Aaron Glenn's fault in a certain sense that you're a defensive-minded coach and your defense sucks. We talked about that with Robert Saleh. Okay, Robert Saleh was not a great head coach at all, but his defense was good. It's no coincidence that Mac McDonald, for the coach of the Seahawks, there's no coincidence that their defense looks much better with him because he was the defensive coordinator for the Ravens. I'm not giving up on Aaron. I'm not blaming it all on Aaron Glenn. I'm not saying that all the blame needs to fall at his feet. What I am saying is the blame that should fall on his feet is how this defense hasn't looked great, how Sauce Gardner hasn't improved since his rookie year. And then this week, Denver and New York going into London. I think they're going to leave London 0-6 because I don't think they're going to beat Denver. Even though Denver did, they beat the Eagles last week. I don't see this Jets team, especially the offense. I don't see them beating Denver. So I'm going to pick Denver to leave London with a win. Arizona at the Colts. I don't know how good the Colts are because they really haven't played a top-tier team like that. But one thing that I do know is they are whooping these bottom feeder teams they're mopping the floor with them. What was it, just 40-6 against the Raiders? A lot of people also said that I was kind of hard on was it Amari DiMarcado for the whole fumble that essentially cost them the game? Okay. I still feel how I feel. And that was a question. One question that I raised going into the season was, what is the ceiling for Kyler Murray? Maybe we've seen it because Kyler Murray hasn't played necessarily awful this season, but they also lose games like they did a week ago. And you're going up against a red-hot Colts team. I don't see them beating the Colts. I have the Colts, and the Colts are at home. I got the Colts winning. Chargers at Dolphins. Now, I know the Chargers are coming off a loss against the mighty Commanders. And the Miami's coming off a loss against the Panthers. It seems like every year, major key players on the Chargers continue to get hurt. Right now, it's their offensive line. Joe Alt being out, Rashawn Slater being out. Their offensive line is taking hit after hit after hit. It is starting to get spooky. And even with all that, I got the Chargers. I know Miami's at home, and Miami plays different at home, but I have the Chargers beating Miami. The Chargers are just a better team. Hell, we're kind of on Mike McDaniel watch. Like, we don't know when he's going to be fired, if he's going to be fired, but we do know that change should come for Miami. We just don't know when. So because of that, I don't see him out coaching Jim Harbaugh. I have the Chargers beating the Dolphins. New England at Saints. New England just beat the Bills, and the Saints just beat the Giants. I think the Saints might not be as bad as the worst team in football as I thought they would be going into the season, but they're not great. And don't get me wrong, the Patriots aren't great either, but they have one of the best wins of the season against the Bills. So if they stop fumbling or turn the ball over, I think the Patriots would be much better than they are. I think the Patriots are going to go into New Orleans, even though New Orleans is riding some momentum after they beat the Giants. I think the New England Patriots are going to beat the Saints at or in New Orleans. So, Cleveland Browns at Pittsburgh Steelers. Yo, I'm going to say it. I don't know if it's his decision. I don't want to just place it at his feet. But it kind of feels like Kevin Stefanski is trying to ruin Shedeur Sanders' football future. You not only bench Joe Flacco, but you trade Joe Flacco. Mind you, the quarterbacks that have been there since day one that are still there that were still there is Dylan Gabriel, Joe Flacco, and Shedeur Sanders. You trade Joe Flacco to a divisional rival, by the way, but you trade Joe Flacco, and you initially come out and say that Dylan Gabriel is your quarterback one, and you're thinking about promoting Bailey Zappi from the practice squad and making him your quarterback two. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. I think it was public scrutiny that made him change his mind. That's what it feels like. It feels like he heard everyone say, how the hell are you going to promote Bailey Zappi? Mind you, we're not talking about Lamar Jackson. We're not talking about, a top-tier quarterback. Bailey Zappi, we saw what he looked like as a starting quarterback. Wasn't great. And this goes back to the draft. I'm not saying it's all on Kevin Stefanski. Like I said, I'm not just putting it all on his shoulders, but it seems like at every turn they have put a wall in front of Shedeur Sanders' progression. Because there's no way that you can look at this Cleveland Browns situation and say, you know what? I'm not even upset that Dylan Gabriel is starting. I mean, if you want to start Dylan Gabriel, you drafted him before Shedeur Sanders, cool. But it's a slap in the face that you're saying, all right, well, I know he's been there since day one, but he's not going to move up to, I think it took yesterday. Yesterday was the first day that they announced he was the quarterback too. Mind you, they were promoting Bailey Zappi from the practice squad. And it just seems like they're doing everything in their power to sabotage Shedeur Sanders' career. You can talk about the front office, cool. I think the front office obviously plays a part. Maybe their feelings toward Dion, I don't know. But you're playing with this man's future. You're playing with this man's career. All because what, you don't like him? Make that make sense. I pray that Shedeur Sanders gets out of Cleveland. I usually don't say that, but I pray he gets out of Cleveland because it doesn't seem like Cleveland has his best interest. I say all that to say, even with a great defense, because Cleveland does have a great defense. I know they just traded Greg Newsome. I hope the Pittsburgh Steelers beats the everlasting you-know-what out of the Cleveland Browns. I'm not even a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. But I do not want, until they do right by not just Shedeur Sanders, until they get this quarterback thing right, I don't want anything. I don't want any. And I know that I'm making this personal. I don't care for right now. I want the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they're coming off of their bye week. I want them to destroy the Cleveland Browns. And I think that's what's going to. I don't know if they're going to destroy them, but I got the Pittsburgh Steelers winning. There's that. Dallas at Carolina. I think I talked about it last week. Or last episode. I think Dak Prescott is borderline MVP candidate. Not borderline. I think he's an MVP candidate. Dak Prescott has played that good. I probably wouldn't pick him over Baker Mayfield right now. If we were doing an MVP ranking, to be completely honest, I think Baker Mayfield would be my number one. And I know he's not going to get it, but maybe Jonathan Taylor might be number two. But Dak Prescott's definitely in my MVP list. And I know the Carolina Panthers just beat the Miami Dolphins. I don't foresee that same success against the Dallas Cowboys, unfortunately. I have Dallas going into Bank of America Stadium and destroying the Carolina Panthers. So we'll see, though. Seattle at Jacksonville. Jacksonville quietly is one of the best defenses in football. I think they have a takeaway every game this season. However, you're going up against a Seattle team that just was in a shootout against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who is one of the best teams in football right now. I think this is going to be a really good game, but even in that game, even in the Jags game against the Chiefs, Trevor Lawrence had some throws where it's like if the defender was just had hands, he would walk out of there with 3 or 4 interceptions. I'm going to go with Seattle beating the Jacksonville Jaguars. Even though Jacksonville is at home, I think Seattle is just, I don't know. Even though, shout out to Jacksonville, they've been playing incredible. LA Rams at Baltimore. I will say this. I'm going to pick the Rams to beat the Baltimore Ravens. I know a lot of people are saying that the season's not over. In fact, I think there's an equal amount on each side. Equal amount of people saying that the Baltimore Ravens are cooked. There's an equal amount of people saying that the Baltimore Ravens, when you get Lamar Jackson back, can make a run. I'll say this. If the Baltimore Ravens indeed make the playoffs, I believe they will be the first team in NFL history to start the season 1-6 and make the playoffs. The Baltimore Ravens are the Cincinnati Bengals this year. Remember last year, Cincinnati had an incredible offense, and their defense was just was just terrible. Baltimore, their offense hasn't been the problem. It's been their porous defense. Now, if they get it together, who knows? But again, I'm not picking them to win against the Rams. Cooper Rush couldn't beat the Texans. And I know the Texans' defensive unit is really good, but so is the Rams. And I would argue that Matthew Stafford and the Rams, in fact, I don't really think there's an argument, that offense is much better than the Titans. And the Texans put up, 41 on them? Yeah, I think Baltimore is going to go into their bye week 1-6 because I have the Rams beating them. Tennessee at Raiders. Ooh, battle of the trash. I know Tennessee just got their first win thanks to Arizona Cardinals. And the Raiders just put up 6 points against the Colts, while the Colts put up 41. I don't know, man. I know everybody that's probably in the front office for Las Vegas is probably upset that they gave Geno Smith all that money because I think he's amongst the league leaders in interceptions. If not the league leader. But with all that being said, I think the Raiders are going to win. I think the Raiders are just a better team, even though they both aren't good. So, yeah. Cincinnati at Green Bay. I made a mistake. I know earlier I talked about I said Cleveland beat the Eagles. I was wrong. It was Broncos beat the Eagles. The Cleveland Browns beat the Green Bay Packers. So I was wrong. I apologize. Again, I said that earlier when I was talking about the Eagles losing to the Giants. I said they're on a 2-game losing streak. And I said that the Browns was the first loss. No, it was actually the Broncos. But with all that being said, Joe Flacco, who just came to the team, on Monday, is getting the start against the Green Bay Packers. Now, if you think Joe Flacco struggled, I know they just beat the Green Bay Packers, but if you think Joe Flacco struggled against or behind the Cleveland Browns offensive line, I got something to tell you, bro. What the Green Bay Packers offense is about to, or what the Green Bay Packers defensive line is about to do to this Cincinnati Bengals offensive line is about to be malpractice. Mind you, Joe Flacco was never a mobile quarterback. And you're about to go behind arguably the worst offensive, or at least the offensive line. They got Joe Burrow essentially done for the season. So I'm going with the Green Bay Packers. I think, yeah, I'm going with the Green Bay Packers. I know Joe Flacco is on the team that beat the Green Bay Packers, the Cleveland Browns, but we're also talking about a Cleveland Browns that has Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward. No such people are on the Cincinnati Bengals. So, San Francisco goes into Tampa Bay. Again, Tampa Bay is one of the best teams in football up to this point. Again, Baker Mayfield is my leading candidate for MVP right now. Even though Mac Jones has been playing well, this team has been playing well with all the injuries that they've had. But I think that magical run comes to a screeching halt against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because you're talking about one of the best complete teams. I think not only is Baker Mayfield my leading candidate for Player of the Year or for MVP, but Emeka Ibuka is my leading candidate by a country mile in Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think this is going to get bad. Shout out Mike Shanahan or Kyle Shanahan. He's a good coach, but no. Then you got Detroit at Kansas City for Sunday Night Football. Look, I think people are starting to come around to the idea that this isn't the same Kansas City Chiefs anymore. Yes, Patrick Mahomes is really good. Yes, I think they're – is this the week? No. I think is this the week they get Rashee Rice back? I know he's suspended. No, he's suspended for 6 weeks, so he gets him week 7. Xavier Worthy, he's not 100%, even though I think he's going to play. Travis Kelce is 100%, but he's not the Travis Kelce that we know. I mean, if you want you know what? I'm not even going to do that. Travis Kelce's not great. The defense, this is yet another week where Chris Jones, their best defensive player, kind of cost them the game by his low effort. Look, and I was wrong. I said it. I don't mind admitting when I was wrong. I was wrong about the Detroit Lions. I know after week 1 they lost to the Green Bay Packers. I said this might not be the year. Since then, they've looked all of the best team in not just the NFC, maybe one of the best teams in football. That whole losing their defensive and offensive coordinator thing, they just threw it out the window because they are juggernauts. So I say all that to say, I think I'm not going to say they're going to lose like they're going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs like they beat the Baltimore Ravens, but I think Kansas City Chiefs have a long day ahead or long night ahead of them on Sunday Night Football, and I have the Detroit Lions winning. Oh boy, you got a doubleheader on Monday. You have the Buffalo Bills going into Atlanta. How in God's, you know what? Now that I'm looking at this slate this week, I understand why these 2 games or these 3 games are in prime time because there's no other. I mean, if Joe Burrow was playing, that would be different, but there's no really other good games. Lamar Jackson's not playing, so the Rams in Baltimore is not a good prime time game. Pittsburgh and Cleveland would be cool, but nobody wants to see Dylan Gabriel against Aaron Rodgers. So I get it. But and I know Buffalo just lost. They just lost to the New England Patriots. But you're going against the Atlanta Falcons, who is not a great defense. They have great names on the offensive side of the ball, but it's really up to Michael Penix. I think Buffalo is going to win. I don't think that there's anybody. I think Josh Allen's going to carve them up. So I think Buffalo is going to go into the Mercedes-Benz Dome and walk out with a win. Like Kirk Cousins would say, they're going to walk into their trap and take over their trap. And then you got the last game. You have Chicago at Washington. This is the rematch for the Hail Mary game last year. Caleb Williams, the number 1 overall pick, going against Jaden Daniels, the number 2 overall pick. Jaden Daniels also was the offensive rookie of the year last year. I don't think there's be any question where I'm leaning. Washington. I think Washington. Their defense played incredible last week against Justin Herbert and the Chargers, and I think the Chargers are a better team than the Bears. So I'm gonna go with Washington. Those are my picks, and we'll see if I'm right or not. Let me know what you guys think. Lastly, before we go, I want to talk about something. I'm about to talk something out of my element, but I'm about to talk about something. I don't watch baseball like that. We all know. And right now we're currently in the MLB playoffs. And this is yet another, in fact, the Yankees are on a 19-year, I'll say it again. The Yankees are on a 19-year World Series drought. Now, yes, they made the World Series, but they haven't won the World Series in 19 years. And obviously, the Yankees aren't the only team in the MLB. I don't even think it's right to talk about how the Phillies. Did y'all see how the Phillies lost? Ooh. On top of that, the Phillies lost a heartbreaker on the same night, Thursday night, that the Eagles were getting their head blown in by the Giants. It was just a bad night for Philly. But the way that the Phillies lost, Jesus loves you. I would hate to be that pitcher. Boy, oh boy. You talk about death threats. I hope they're not sending them, but I can imagine he probably had to turn his comments off. But I want to talk about I want to end this with the Yankees because the Yankees continued their 19-year playoff or World Series drought by losing to the Red Sox. The Yankees is the perfect example of a team that is late to change, and I'll explain it to you guys because you may not understand what I'm talking about until I explain it. In the 80s, in the 90s, in the 2000s, In the 2000s, the model that the Yankees go by would win them a World Series. For people that don't remember, Yankees was that team that could pay more than any other team, more than the Dodgers, more than the Red Sox. They're New York. They had their own network, the Yes Network, and they could pay anybody whatever they wanted. And they did for a long time. When you talk about Derek Jeter, when you talk about Alice Rodriguez or A-Rod, they would pay whatever they had to pay. That would ensure them a World Series. And for the longest, that worked for them. There's a reason why they have, I think, maybe the most World Series titles in baseball, at least up there. And I'm saying that model worked for them for a while. You just pay the big names, and the big names go out and play and win you a World Series. But you see, you can tell that the Yankees are still trying to go off that model, because when you have Aaron Judge, when you have Giancarlo Stanton, when you have Corey Bellinger, when you have Jazz Chisholm, when you have Paul Goldschmidt, all of them, incredible players, all of them, maybe outside of Jazz Chisholm and maybe Cody Bellinger, are future Hall of Famers. For sure, Aaron Judge is one of them. Aaron Judge is probably the second best player in baseball, maybe first. I know you can argue Shohei Ohtani, but still. Those names back in the 2000s, back in the 1990s, back in the 80s would win you a World Series. We paid the best players. Who cares about pitching? Who cares about a bullpen? We have the best players in baseball, and that worked for the Yankees. Until it didn't. Until you look and, while we still have the money that we have, so do the Dodgers. So do the Padres. So do the Phillies. So do the Boston Red Sox. Now, yeah, the Yankees have more, but now you're starting to see, so roster construction. We have more, but we don't have that much more than them. Oh, wait. You're telling me that it's important to have a strong roster, not just big names. You know what the Yankees did? The Yankees built their team like a basketball team. They built their team like, in basketball, you put the big names on a team, and usually that could win you a team. That can win you a championship. You put Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Kevin Durant on a team, that won you 2 championships. You put LeBron James, D. Wade, Chris Bosh on a team, that won you 2 championships. You put Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Rajon Rondo on the same team, that won you a championship. The issue is baseball is not basketball. It doesn't matter if you have the best player. If you do not have a complete team, from pitching to hitting to a bullpen to a good manager, you're cooked. And as we've seen for 19 years now, the Yankees have been going off the same model. Go get the best player. Go get the big name. Not best player. Go get the big names. It doesn't matter if they play the same position. Get the big names. And we have a shot. Hell, they were just in the World Series last year with Juan Soto. What happened? What happens when those big names, they're not hitting them shots? They're not getting those home runs. They're not getting those strikeouts. Then what happens? as we saw, look, I don't think it's a question that I think the Dodgers have the best roster in baseball. I mean, it seemed like almost every top name player went to the Dodgers. But if you look at just roster wise, there's a reason why the Phillies are one of the best teams in baseball, and the Yankees are home. There's a reason, in fact, as we're recording this, there's a reason why the Tigers and Mariners are still playing. I never changed the background. But you can't keep doing the old ways, Yankees. I'm sorry, they didn't lose to the Yankees did not lose to the Red Sox. They lost to the Blue Jays. I apologize. The Yankees lose again for the 19th year in a row. Congrats. And there you have it. That's been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I truly, truly appreciate you guys. If you want an Unpopular Podcast shirt, hoodie, sweater, long sleeve joggers, the link is in the description below. I have multiple different colors, multiple different designs. Get your Unpopular Podcast merch today. Also, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm trying to get as many subscribers as possible. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to subscribe if you like the content, if you think they'll like the content. It definitely means a lot to me. I'm trying to grow the podcast, and I cannot do it without you guys' help, so please subscribe. Also, same with the DSPs, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud. I'm trying to grow unilaterally, and I cannot do it without you guys' help. So please like, comment, share, rate, whatever DSP you're listening to. Hell, take a picture and send it to the Unpopular Podcast on Instagram. Show the support or tag the Unpopular Podcast. It definitely means a lot. Also, socials, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I post pretty much daily there, whether you talk about reels, stories, post pretty much every day. That's probably the quickest way to get to me. And look, I don't mind going back and forth. You just keep it respectful. It just means that you're listening to me and that you are passionate about whatever you're talking about. You have an opinion, all of which are very important to me. So please leave a comment. Just keep it respectful, and I don't mind responding. I don't mind going back and forth. I don't mind debating. Just make sure you follow. Until next time, much love.